What if I told you that the most powerful being in the universe doesn't live in a distant heaven or in a sacred book, but in the absolute silence of your own mind? What if everything humanity has built upon the idea of God, temples, dogmas, wars, and fears, was nothing more than a shadow, a masterfully designed distraction so that you never look where the divine truly is? Since the first spark of consciousness was ignited, we have tried to name the unnameable. We have trapped the infinite in language. We have given a face to the formless. And we have reduced the vastness of the universe to a series of rules, rituals, and prohibitions. The result is that we have turned God into a judge, into a celestial overseer, or even worse, into a figure that can only be accessed through intermediaries. But there is a secret, a mystery kept by the ancients, and now rediscovered by quantum physics. God is not an entity, He is a frequency. And if everything in the universe is vibration, then true spirituality is not a quest, but a tuning? Today we are going to dismantle the greatest illusion in human history. And today we are going to explore the science that proves you are a receiver of divine consciousness, and discover why certain forces have worked tirelessly so that your personal frequency stays as low as possible. Get ready, because what you are about to hear is not philosophy. It's a revelation that will force you to question every belief you were taught. But before we dive in, if you feel this truth resonating within you, if you choose to stop settling for the shadows, subscribe and activate the notification bell. This channel is a beacon for those who choose to wake up. Don't miss the rest of the keys. From the shaman who gazes at the stars to the monk who meditates in the Himalayas, we are all searching for the same thing, a connection with something greater. But along the way, our language and our institutions created the great divide. The truth is that our intellect, that marvelous tool, is terrible at understanding the absolute. Trying to define God is like trying to measure the ocean with a spoon. Lao Tzu, the great master of the Tao, summed it up elegantly millennia ago. The Tao that can be named is not the true Tao. Every time we put the label God on a book, a dogma, or a concept, we are reducing it. We are turning the unlimited into something limited, which is the fundamental mistake of all religions. The Hermetists, custodians of ancient knowledge in ancient Egypt, made it clear that the first principle of creation is that everything is mind. The universe is mental. This is not a poetic statement, it is the foundation of reality. It suggests that the universe is a manifestation of a higher consciousness, not of a bearded being with a scepter. Now, modern science, thousands of years later, is beginning to whisper the same thing. Neuroscientist Donald Hoffman suggests that the reality we perceive is not objective, it's just an interface. Imagine you're playing a highly complex video game. The trees, the monsters, your own avatar, everything is a functional 3D representation. The god of the game would be the code, the program itself, the consciousness that sustains it. The problem is that humanity has spent 2,000 years arguing over whether God's avatar should wear sandals or sneakers, ignoring that they're just pixels of a much greater consciousness. If everything we experience is a mental interface, then the idea that we are separated from divinity is the greatest optical illusion created by the brain. If God is the universal consciousness, what is His language? Nikola Tesla, the rebellious genius of the 20th century, was very clear about it. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. This is the key to dismantling the belief in an external God. If everything is energy in constant motion, as the Hermetic principle states, nothing is immobile, everything moves, everything vibrates, then God cannot be something alone, immovable, or distant. The divine is the same vibrational substance that shapes the chair you're sitting on, the air you breathe, and the thought that crosses your mind. And in that, mystics and scientists agree. Mystics speak of Brahman in Hinduism as the universal consciousness of which everything is a part, or of the experience of unity, where the self disappears. Meanwhile, the scientific method refers to the double-slit experiment, which proves that simple observation can alter subatomic reality. That is, our consciousness not only interacts with the world, but also shapes it. If reality depends on how we observe it, and if observation is linked to our frequency, then our connection with God is literally a matter of tuning in. This is where the revelation becomes uncomfortable. If the connection with universal consciousness is just a matter of vibrational tuning, why does humanity live in a constant state of fear, scarcity, judgment, and guilt? The psychiatrist Dr. David Hawkins created a revolutionary tool, the scale of consciousness. This scale measures the frequency in hertz of human emotions at the base of emotions. Vibrating very low, we have shame at 20 hertz, guilt at 30 hertz, and fear at 100 hertz. At the top, we find love at 500 hertz, joy at 540 hertz, and enlightenment at 700 plus hertz. And if mathematics says so, the lower your vibration, the more disconnected you will be from the divine frequency of creation. And the big question is, who benefits from the masses vibrating low? The answer lies in the very structure, the structure of civilization. To control a population, you don't need walls. You need to keep them in the frequency of fear and dependence. That's why they taught you that God is outside, that you have to earn heaven, and that you're a sinner who needs an intermediary for salvation. Did they make you dependent? But on the other hand, the media, like the news, doesn't sell information. It sells fear, tragedies, crises, threats, all designed by behavioral psychology to keep your nervous system in survival mode. A brain in constant alert can't think critically or access the higher frequency of love. And what if economic life also affects our frequency? The addiction to scarcity, perpetual debt, the endless race. They keep you focused on materiality and lack, preventing you from recognizing the inherent abundance of consciousness. As long as humanity vibrates in guilt and fear, we will be unable to realize that God is within us. This is the real prison, not a physical cell, but a vibrational cage. If reality is an interface and your emotion is the tuning frequency, the key to hacking the system is in your mind. Neville Goddard, the 20th century mystic, stated it without hesitation. Imagination is God. It's not about asking an external God to grant you something, but about recognizing that your mind, your imagination is the creative engine aligned with the source. If everything is vibration, then your mind has the power to create realities. However, for that creation to be effective and permanent, the mind must be trained. You must break free from the loop of scarcity, doubt, and fear that were programmed into you since childhood. And here comes the detail that few are willing to face. The true spiritual path is not about accumulating more knowledge, more dogmas, more theories, but about unlearning what limits you. It's a process of mental purification, but how do you achieve that unlearning in a world that bombards you with noise 24/7? The key to raising your frequency and reprogramming your consciousness is the information you consume and the silence you cultivate. The mind, if it isn't trained to focus on the truth, will return to fear by default. Don't fall into the trap of only seeking distractions that keep you in a low frequency. We understand that the problem is vibrational tuning. The question is, how do we transcend the illusion of separation that keeps us trapped? The ancient texts called it Maya, the illusion in Hinduism, or the great dream in Egypt. It is the veil that separates us from pure consciousness. Today's neuroscience, through studies with dimethyltryptamine and deep meditation, has shown that our brain normally filters reality, reducing it so that it becomes functional. The problem is that by filtering, we lose the vision of unity. But the veil is not a divine imposition. It's a mental construct sustained by fear, guilt, and the need for external validation. The answer to dissolve that illusion has always been in a simple place: silence. All spiritual traditions, without exception, have reached the same conclusion. In Buddhism, it is believed that enlightenment happens when thoughts cease. In mystical Christianity, the voice of God is heard within, and in Sufism, true knowledge arises when the mind stops questioning. So God is always present, but can only be perceived when the mind is absent. The neuroscientist Andrew Newberg studied meditators and discovered that in emptiness, the activity of the parietal lobe, the part of the brain responsible for the sense of time and space, decreases dramatically. In those moments, the sense of a separate self disappears and the meditator becomes one. And the first key to living aligned with the divine frequency is to practice absolute emptiness, the space between thoughts, the silence between the notes. We already understood the truth. God is a frequency, and we have been programmed to vibrate below the threshold that connects us with it. The key to getting out of the mental cage is not to search, but to tune in. But how do we go from theory to practice? How does a human being train their consciousness to vibrate in love and creation? 500 hertz and above, instead of fear and guilt at 30, 100 hertz. The answer lies in the oldest and most powerful technology on the planet: sound and sacred geometry. In Hinduism, the mantra Om is considered the pranava, the primordial vibration that sustains all of creation. And what does Christianity say at the beginning of the Gospel of John? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And what if that word wasn't a spoken language, but the first frequency of creation? This isn't just poetry. Research on cymatics, the study of visualizing sound, shows that sound vibrations organize matter into perfect geometric patterns. Low vibration, fear, chaos create irregular, unstable shapes. High vibration, harmony, Om creates sacred geometries, perfect structures like the circle or the flower of life. This means that when your body and mind vibrate at a harmonious frequency, love, gratitude, the internal structure of your reality literally becomes ordered, and you become the architect of the geometry of your own life. The true portal of tuning is not in the brain, but in the heart. The HeartMath Institute has scientifically proven that the heart is not just a biological pump. It is an information processing organ that emits the most powerful electromagnetic field in the body, 5,000 times stronger than that of the brain. When you experience low-frequency emotions, your heart rhythm is erratic and incoherent. But when you activate emotions like gratitude, appreciation, or love, the heart enters a perfect rhythmic pattern. Cardiac coherence. Here's the revelation. Being in cardiac coherence not only makes you feel good, it changes the information your electromagnetic field is radiating to the universe. If God is the frequency and your heart is the most powerful transmitter, then the path to connection is not pleading, but coherent tuning. You stop asking and start emitting the frequency of the divine. This is what the mystics called praying from God. Imagine it like this. Your heart is like the Wi-Fi antenna. If you're vibrating in fear, you only receive the slow, spam-filled signal of scarcity. If you tune it to love, you connect to the unlimited fiber optic of the source. Now, the most controversial aspect: if the connection is as simple as raising your frequency and tuning your heart, why is humanity more disconnected than ever? Because there is a program, a social and media engineering, designed to constantly bombard your vibrational field with low-frequency information. The modern world is designed to keep you in the frequency of cortisol, the stress hormone. Algorithms don't seek your well-being, they seek your attention, because attention is the currency of exchange. The easiest way to capture your attention is to inject you drama, polarization, and outrage. And since the 1950s, experts have known that negative emotions are easier to induce and harder to eradicate than positive ones. A human being in outrage mode is trapped, consumes more, protests less against the real source of control, and becomes dependent on the next dose of dopamine or fear. That's why psychologist Leon Festinger demonstrated that when a person is faced with a truth that deeply contradicts their beliefs, for example, that God is not outside, they prefer to reject the truth. To avoid mental discomfort, this creates a cycle. The system programs you with fear, and you, to protect your belief, reject the information that could set you free. It's an elegant prison. The jailer is inside your head, and the key is the awareness of your own frequency. If the portal to the divine is the void or silence, what does modern society deny us the most? Silence. We are forced to fill every space. In the car, the radio, while exercising, podcasts or music, in the bathroom, the phone. Every moment of stillness is a potential portal to the divine frequency, because it is in the cessation of thought where the interface deactivates and the separate self dissolves. The system knows it. That's why the distraction industry, entertainment, news, social media, is the most profitable. It's not about keeping you happy, it's about keeping you busy, distracted, and with your heart in an incoherent frequency. The spiritual struggle of the modern era is a struggle for silence. Understanding this is the first act of rebellion. But to really change your life, you must start the process of unlearning. You can't bring the divine frequency into a mind full of fear and old stories. The spiritual path was never about acquiring something new, but about letting go of what doesn't belong to you in order to begin your unlearning and raise your frequency. Zen masters and mystics from all eras will always guide you to the same triad of questions that act as a vibrational filter. Is this real, the emptiness? Every time a thought of worry, fear, or judgment crosses your mind, ask yourself, is it real, or is it a ghost from the past or future? By doing this, you stop the thought before it generates the emotion, breaking the cycle of low frequency. Does it help me to connect to coherence? Is the information I'm consuming tuning me into gratitude or into fear? Your heart is the transmitter. Stop consuming vibrational poison. Who am I without this story? The illusion, every label you put on yourself is a story that limits your infinite identity. By letting go of the story, the small self dissolves and you emerge as the unlimited consciousness that you truly are. This constant practice of non-judgmental observation is the most effective tool to raise your frequency because it allows you to identify and release the control programs. This truth is liberating, but it's also terrifying for the ego. It requires taking full responsibility. You can no longer blame an external God for your problems. You can no longer blame the government or the system for your emotional state. Your state of consciousness is yours. And by choosing the frequency of love, you become such a powerful tuning point that the reality around you must reorganize itself to match your vibration. The masters say that there is a point of no return, the moment when this truth stops being an idea and becomes a tangible experience, a moment when you feel deep down that you are the divine consciousness experiencing yourself. Only those who are true seekers, those who are willing to unlearn more than to learn, reach this point in the video. If you have reached this point of the revelation, it is not a coincidence. It is a sign that your frequency has changed and that the veil is falling. For you, you are one of the rebels who choose to awaken as an act of consciousness and a seal of your commitment to this new truth. I want you to do something simple but powerful. Comment the phrase, "I choose to awaken." That simple statement is a signal of alignment to the universe, an acknowledgement that you no longer settle for crumbs and that you are willing to embrace your power as a conscious creator. We have dismantled the illusion God is not in a location, He is in a frequency. We have understood the trap. Society keeps us in low frequencies to control us, and we have found the key: unlearning and heart coherence through silence. Now, the final and more practical question: how do you use this understanding to transform your reality? How do you go from knowing that you are divine consciousness to living as a conscious co-creator? The answer lies in the state of being. Remember what quantum physics taught us: observation shapes reality. If your consciousness is the observer and your frequency is the tuning, then the key to manifestation is not effort, but vibrational alignment. Now you have the 4 keys to awakening: revelation, God is frequency and consciousness; the tool, heart coherence; love, gratitude, and unlearning; the portal, silence and absolute emptiness; action, felt manifestation operating from the desired frequency. The true spiritual path has never been about ascending a mountain, but about descending into the truth of who you are. You already are what you seek. Your only task is to stop resisting that truth, to stop feeding the idea that you need to look for something outside yourself. When this understanding is integrated, your life is transformed. You begin to notice the hidden order of the universe. Coincidences become direct messages from the frequency. Anxiety and fear become passing frequencies that you can observe without letting them define you. And you stop feeling like a powerless victim and recognize yourself as a tuning point of creation. But there is one last warning, the one that all the masters have given at the end of their teaching. Once you wake up, there's no turning back. You can't unknow this truth. The choice is profound. Do you prefer the comfort of illusion and control, or the challenging freedom of being a conscious creator? You feel it, that vibration pulsing in your chest, the one that has kept you here until the very last second. It's the confirmation. It's not a thought. It's the truth revealing itself within you. You have never been separated. The universe is not punishing you. It's waiting for you to tune into the frequency that you already are. The game of life was never about finding God. It was about remembering that you are God. Now the ball is in your court. You can turn off the video and go back to the distractions that keep you in a low frequency, or you can take the next crucial step in your awakening. Understanding that God is frequency is only half the map. The big question is, how do you apply this frequency to attract concrete miracles, specifically in your finances and your relationships? There is a principle that governs the law of attraction, and I explain it to you in this video that appears on the screen. Click now. That video is not a suggestion, it's the next level. It's the final step for your mind, already tuned in to learn how to materialize the divine frequency into tangible reality. The truth has already set you free. Now it's time to make it real.